Alright. What's up, what's up? It's been a while. Haven't made any shit for a while. We're just going to take a look at the game that Lesnik and Gary wanted to have us a look at. Wanted us to have a look at. It's going to be pretty interesting, I'm assuming. Obviously we have Gary on the OKW, and then we also have Lesnik on the US, and I hope I can use WASD. No, of course not. Why the fuck not? Just be aware that we are using a bit of a slower bitrate on here. It might even look like a very good quality stream that you're watching in the past, but I hope that doesn't bother you too much. I'm just gonna try and get some light happening. Is that okay? You don't want to see my mug anyway. Who gives a shit? Let's remove the fog of war. I want to be able to see what both of these players are doing. So obviously we have two very good players here, so this game should get pretty intense. We're probably going to see a lot of grenades coming out early. And Lesnik wasted absolutely no time getting to the fuel point, as you should. He also got a quick engineer coming out from... Sorry, not engineer, medic. Quick medic from Lesnik, which is pretty interesting. I've not seen medic much, because they really only heal and sit, like they let you retreat, which is pretty good. If this ends up working out well, I'm definitely gonna try and work that into my playstyle. So a couple of other things to note that I think is quite interesting. That we are on crossroads, which is obviously quite a balanced match, balanced map for 1v1s. You've got sorry about that. Just fat fingered the numpad 0. I don't know how you do that. Anyway, poor old Gary is having a little bit of trouble, it looks like, with Lesnik's early sort of rush. Which sort of makes sense, because it kind of looked like Gary had a little bit of trouble getting out to the map as quickly as Lesnik did. So, you know, he's already got the fuel point, but both players do have fuel points, and Lesnik is currently up 1 capture point, and Gary is obviously he's about to be 2 capture points ahead of Gary. So that is something to note. It's quite a surprise that the riflemen in the building are just getting raped by the Luftwaffe pioneers, but you know, whatever. I won't pretend to be an expert at this game. So he's obviously brought the supply truck up, and Lesnik is going ahead and using the medic as a retreat point, and then the truck as a resupply point. So that's obviously quite good as well. I'm just going to go ahead and turn down the game sound for us, because it's not going to be overly important for watching this match play out. So what else do we have here? Gary's definitely going to be looking at losing these guys. He's probably going to look at throwing a grenade at the medic, hopefully, if he knows it's there. I think he does. But Lesnik's just looking at just reinforcing his units, probably giving him a bar soon. What's his... No, he's got no munitions. Where's his munitions gone? Oh, it'll be all grenades, my bad. Anyway, Gary's got a fair few Luftwaffe pioneers out now. He's also gotten his own medic, which is interesting. This early medic from Lesnik is definitely shaping up to be quite the early advantage, that is for sure. I bet it gets even stronger if you're able to get a bar early on one of the rifleman squads. Didn't really notice this before, but if you look at the mini map, it's pretty hilarious. Gary and Lesnik are actually trading fuel points at the moment, like they're just swapping them around, which is pretty funny. At least I think so. So apart from that, not too much action. Gary just obviously got a nade thrown at his face and lost a few units there. He's definitely not looking like it's just not shaping up to be a great game for Gary so far. Really the only thing that's keeping him in this game. Luckily he's, obviously he's a phenomenal player, so he's been smart enough to go and get the other fuel point while he loses his own fuel point, which is good. Okay, this is something I don't see very often. We have the 50 cal Jeep coming out for Lesnik. Not sure why Gary isn't really using his medic yet. He could probably use it up here somewhere, or just, really just anywhere. Just put it somewhere, get it working, if you know what I mean. Just like get it in the game, get it influencing the battlefield. But as far as map control goes now, it's pretty even. As you can see from the minimap, it's just the whole minimap is just a straight line down the middle. Obviously Lesnik is slightly in the lead in terms of resources. Lesnik is slightly ahead in fuel generation at the moment. I'm assuming he's got a he's got an extra fuel point, but Gary's about to steal the other fuel point, which is really interesting. Lesnik's sort of started to chill out. I'm not sure what his plan is here. He's just throwing a lot of grenades. He really needs to get an HMG out soon, and I think he's sort of spent it on this. Not sure I agree with the truck, but as long as he can get this fuel point in these positions, it's going to be fine. As long as he can like take this whole side of the map while Gary doesn't have it, then the play's worked out fine. So yeah, they're just really trading territories back and forth at this point. The rifleman, he really needs to pull those riflemen out. There you go. Alright, so he's got his veteran rifle out there. Oh, never mind. That's so yeah, he just that autocannon just turned on its ghost shells and wiped out the rest of Lesnik's veteran squad through the building. So that's really super skilled. Well done, Gary, for equipping the ghost shells. Apart from that, that's fine. Lesnik really needed to just back that right off from that autocannon. And obviously Gary's going to get this this brick wall here for some cover, and that's pretty much going to be the end of Lesnik's early game, I would say. He's probably going to get naded, I think. Yep, there it goes. So yeah, he has kept one of his squads there, but yeah, I'm not an expert, obviously. Disclaimer. Not a professional. This is not gameplay advice, but in my personal opinion, a little bit too much grenading going on from Lesnik in the early game. He really needed an HMG out, especially in this building right here, this one right here. If he had gotten an HMG in there, even if it was just like a 30 cal, he'd just get anything in there. Just so that you can, like, once an HMG is in that building, because he had that territory for so long. He really, if he had got an HMG in there, it would have really zoned out any like early armor, like like a 50 cal, obviously. It would have zoned out any of that sort of tomfoolery that Gary would have been looking at. Bringing out, and obviously that autocannon really captured him pretty much this entire side of the map single-handedly. He's probably also going to get Lesnik's munitions. Especially if you can get this one as well, that'll also give him pretty insane income. Apart from that, we'll get back to the game at hand. Lesnik, obviously with the AA half track, which is very good. Yeah, that's probably correct. That's obviously really good. as well. I'm not really sure where his medic is off to. He's sort of having a little wander. Lesnik's medic's having a walkabout, so yeah. Alright, got a 50 cal. Yeah, 50 cal. Yeah, half track over here. He's gonna want to be pretty careful about how close he gets to Gary here, but apart from that, I haven't actually mentioned what they're playing, and I don't know either. So obviously he's on airborne, Lesnik's on airborne, and I'm pretty sure Gary's on defensive. Am I right? Oh, Luftwaffe, of course. My bad. Anyway, so Luftwaffe versus airborne, of course, the two 1v1 factions. So Gary's gone ahead and bought himself a League support gun. 75mm of frustration. Oh, of course, he's bought two of them. Why the fuck not? That's really interesting. The thing about indirect fire, like mortars and support guns and all that kind of stuff, any on-map indirect fire that you can get is... he just took out that half track with a support gun. That's really impressive. I mean, I'll say it's impressive, but it's not really that impressive. Like, he's got all of his infantry in the base, and he just wiped out a squad and a half track of Gary's. So yeah, you know, fun times. Whatever, shit happens. So now that Gary has the double support gun in his base, and poor old Lesnik does not. Really, all his, like, I'm not sure what Lesnik's doing. He really needs to capture this point. Like, seriously, you are missing out on 11 munitions per minute with this thing uncaptured. That is insane. Gary is up to 52 munitions income per minute. 52, and he hasn't even built a single cache yet. Lesnik has 36. If he could capture that, he would be up to 47, which is pretty much even. It's like there'd be a 5 munition bonus for Gary per minute, and like you just flip 1 point in your favor and that deficit flips the other way around. So yeah, capturing that munitions point, really not sure what Lesnik's doing with not capturing this. Yeah, going for the fuel's probably correct, I guess, but you are playing airborne, so those munitions are going to be really important moving into the mid game, and especially the late game once you want to start using your air force and equipping your elite soldiers with epic weapons and such. Anyway, Lesnik's got his Stuart out now. Obviously that was a fair bit more important to him, with capturing all those fuel all the time, all that fuel, sorry, all the time. Obviously the AA half track for Gary coming out now, and just sort of trying to pick away at the Stuart, which is as effective as you would expect it to be. Absolutely pathetic. Apart from that, Lesnik with his airdrop engineer, which is, it's okay. Yeah, it worked. It was fine. It worked. Again, that munitions point down here, I'm sorry, I'll stop mentioning it at this point, but you're playing airborne and you've left this. Has he done this consciously? Is it a bug? I don't understand. Could he not see this point? I don't know, man. You do what you want. I'm not an expert. You're probably better at this than me. He's probably just leaving it for, I don't know, strategy. Does it like stop your manpower income? Either way, looks like Gary lost that pretty decisively. That Stuart sort of just shit on all of his infantry, which is fairly reasonable. He does have some Freiwilligen up there. M5 Stuart pushing in now. He's looking to take out the Lux. Misses. Got it. There it goes. Lux goes up. It's only destroyed. It's only abandoned, not destroyed. And Lesnik decides not to finish it for some reason. Maybe he knew the Panzerjägers were coming out, but yeah, he knows now, and he really needs to get away, and he does. Good reaction time from Lesnik there. Apart from that, just those engineers, yeah, the 82nd Airborne engineers moving deeper into GreyWolf's territory at this point. just in the north there, trying to capture some territory. They sorted out the Freiwilligen, no problem. Yeah, the Stuart just sort of zoning Gary away. I do apologize, I completely missed what happened there. Ah, right, okay, so Gary's AA half-track wiped out Lesnik's AA half-track, which is fair enough. Looks like Gary's planning on taking the rest of this side of the map with the Stuart out of the picture. Those Panzerjägers really need to get to the middle of the map. I'm just wondering what the fog of war looks like for Gary. Where is it? There we go. Yeah, he should be able to fairly see that Stuart was definitely moving down towards the other side of the map. Maybe Gary will actually end up capturing Lesnik's ammo before Lesnik does, so that'd be interesting. Anyway, support guns go into town on the 82nd Airborne Engineers. We'll get an update on them in a minute because we have some action in the south side with an AA half-track looking at wiping out some of Gary's squads, and that shotgun being as effective as we all remember. Absolutely devastating. Stuart's looking at taking out that guy. Doesn't do it, doesn't manage it. Here comes the Panzerjägers, pretty good. He's going for the stealth. Can he get it in time? I don't know if he did. I don't think he... yeah, he did. Alright, cool. So he's got some stealth Panzerjägers there on hold fire mode, so that's pretty good. Lux is going to sort out the... well, it was. But of course they have Panzerschreck, why not? Not Panzerschreck, Bazooka, same. I know you hate looking at my ugly mug, but you know I might as well be slightly professional about it. That'll do. I'm really interested to see where the actual Fallschirmjägers are, and sort of what the reason is that there's no actual Fallschirmjägers coming out for Gary yet, because you know he's got 700 manpower and 190 fuel, so I don't know, like, yeah, is he going for some big armor, I suppose? I wish I could see the tech trees, because I really feel like we should be seeing some decent infantry coming out from Gary at the 17-minute mark, no less, because you know it's been a bit weird so far with, yeah, like just with this sort of stuff, like you know, Gary's Fallschirmjäger infantry should be able to pretty easily sort out these engineers, especially those mountaineering ones with the MG34. That should be easy enough. But yeah, these support guns looking at going to town on the engineers. Oh, nice. Stuart's gone. Stuart got clicked by the plane. It's out of there. Gary's really microing this AA gun quite effectively. He's really not putting it any... you know, he's just playing real cautiously with it, and I really like that. That was rude. That must have been the strafe, the loitering planes that target armor. Really effective in the early game with those lightly armored vehicles. I think they have like 57mm guns or something like that, and they just wipe out any half-track or any lightly armored shitlords. So yeah, Lesnik not really having anything too serious happening on the map at this point. He's obviously got an HMG on this side, but as far as actual actual pressure, Lesnik is definitely on the back foot at this point. And you can tell that with the numbers of units that they have available. I mean, it doesn't take a genius to know that Gary is just really I thought the infantry guns would have been doing a bit more work. What I was saying before with the indirect fire, with these small 1v1 maps, any indirect fire that you can get, like with these support guns or any mortars or anything like that, is twice or 3 times as effective as it normally is, because they can usually influence the entirety of the map. Like if this was a VP game, these light league support guns would be able to completely zone people away from this VP, and the other one. Maybe not the other one, maybe not this one, but you know, 66% of the objectives. Anyway, got a good old L48 Jagdpanzer out now from Gary, which which is really good. I mean, it's obviously really good. Any idiot can tell you that, but I like it because it's a preemptive Jagdpanzer. It's not a Panzer IV, so he can take more of the map. It's a defensive Jagdpanzer. I'm not sure if he was expecting it, but he had that Jagdpanzer before Lesnik even had a Sherman, so that's really impressive in my eyes. It just sort of shows. What do we got here? He's packing up his AA here. Maybe he's expecting some American AA soon. This is the German AA. He's just got so many Luft Pioneer squads. I never get this many. I'm not sure what the play is here, but I mean it's obvious. I mean it's obvious what it is, but like I'm just not sure about it. Oh, here's some. Sorry, here's some elite. Elite. Elite Fallschirmjäger. But yeah, either way, the Jagdpanzers was attempting to take out the Sherman. It wasn't particularly effective. Well, it was. It hit it first and then fucking missed for some reason. But yeah, the Bazooka in this squad is obviously going to attempt to wipe out the Jagdpanzer, and it does. But at the same time, Lesnik does lose his Sherman, so they just trade armor, which is pretty unfortunate for everybody involved. The League support guns should really be going to town on these bloody engineers, but don't know what the go is there. Apart from that, Gary's really taken back the top side of the map, which is good. Good for Gary. Don't remember when this happened, but Lesnik finally decided to capture his most important resource, so well done on that front. Like I was saying before, with the elite Fallschirmjägers, they're really going to be able to sort out anything that the American Airborne is going to throw at them at this stage of the game. Poor old Lesnik is sort of been reduced to just sort of relying on his Sherman here to get the job done. We'll see how well he micros that, but Lesnik's just in a really crazy ammo deficit where Gary's still quite healthy. I mean, I'm not gonna say I'm a genius or anything, but especially with Gary using his planes so much, I don't know if you've been noticing, Gary's been using his planes a hell of a lot more. Well, not more. Gary has been using his planes, and Lesnik has not been using them in any way, shape, or form. I'm not going to blame it solely on the fact that he didn't have this munitions point for the first half of the game, but you know, it wouldn't have hurt to have this have an extra 150 munitions right about now. So that stealth Panzerjäger squad finally became useful with the Sherman there. I'm not sure I would have. I hate to shit on your plays so much, Lesnik, but I mean, I just when nobody's buying anything significant, I just want to sort of mention what's happening, sort of in the macro perspective with sort of positioning with the Sherman. I probably would have left it up here, and then had some infantry try and take some of this stuff, because you already know that he doesn't have Panzerjägers down here, and you already knew that he did have Panzerjägers somewhere down here, and the fact that they can stealth, and Gary does know how to do that, sort of indicates that you should play around stealth Panzerjägers. Maybe something to consider, sort of press your advantage here when you have it, sort of thing is what I'm thinking of, especially with Gary sort of committing so many resources coming out of the south side of his base, because you already know that he's doing that. You already know his Jaeger was there. You've already seen his AA half-track there, and you did see before his his Ostwind there. I'm not sure if you saw the pack gun there as well, but yeah, we just haven't really seen a hell of a lot come out of this west side of Gary's base for a while, except for the Volsham Jaegers. So I'm just sort of keeping that in mind. This HMG also has done absolutely nothing for a really, really long time. Like, it's obviously fine that you want to defend that field point and defend this, but you know, this building is just not doing anything for you at this point. But yeah, you've definitely still got some infantry. You're definitely not out of this game. You can still do some stuff. Gary's got the Ostwind moving up and the pack gun moving up. See what I mean? Gary's sort of moved his front line up while he has the advantage. You obviously don't know that this exists at this point, and you're probably going to move it up and run straight into the pack gun. It's just sort of an outplay by Gary, unfortunately. He just unfortunately in this game, he just knows what he needs. He just knows that he needs to stop the Shermans. Not sure why the pack gun didn't fire there. It was probably a fog of war problem for Gary. Yeah, it was. That's absolutely hilarious. It's probably going to fire at this point. Hopefully the Ostwind doesn't force these into cover. Really need this on AP mode so you can whack that Ostwind. It's really going to cause a lot of problems for you. What the fuck? It's on AP mode and it didn't take out the Ostwind. Don't advance! You already knew a pack was there, man. You knew that was there. Just like, switch sides. You already know he's committed so much resources to this side. I'm not sure if you know or not that he's got nothing over here, but you know, it's just something to consider. Anyway, either way, you did actually take out the pack gun, which is good. But he's going to be able to replace that, but that's going to be good for manpower trading in the long run. Damn, I can definitely see what you guys mean about how close this game was. I didn't expect it to be this long, but just going to speed it up a little bit here. Pack gun's moving up, Ostwind's moving up, and Gary's buying another Jagdpanzer, so just something to keep in mind. Gary has a Jagdpanzer coming out, and Lesnik has an AA truck coming out, which is also something else to note. Lesnik's on 30 fuel, Gary's like, they have similar incomes, but Lesnik does have more manpower, obviously having a much smaller army. But it's just sort of a manpower deficit that Lesnik is sort of starting to fall into. He's just not got as much manpower to play into because Gary's just trading more effectively. He hasn't actually lost a unit in quite a long time, except for obviously the pack gun just before, which he replaced immediately, the Jagdpanzer, and then he also lost a Luftwaffe Pioneer squad B4 as well, which is quite annoying for him, but not as annoying as losing 2 Shermans, or maybe even 3 Shermans. But yeah, hopefully, well, that was interesting. Isn't that like 200 munitions and it didn't even take out the fucking Ostwind? That's really ridiculous. That should have 100% guaranteed taken out that Ostwind. That Ostwind should not exist right now. What are these support guns going to town on? These guys, right? Yeah, these guys. Just gonna speed it up a little bit here. It's a little bit of a lull in the combat. Again, if you were gonna think about getting in it, like if you had that HMG here, you sort of know it's pretty much defended against infantry. If you were looking at worried about armor, get whatever you got to do there, and then just sort of switch sides, because the top side's really not seeing any resistance whatsoever from Lesnik for a while. Even though the map is like cut right in the middle, you definitely could be doing, sort of maybe pushing at least one guy up there, every now and then to try and test it out. Just sort of test the front lines up there to see if he's not so hot on that area. But obviously a really epic Fallschirmjäger drop for Gary on the south side of the map just now. Obviously the Panzerjäger moves up. Gary already knows there's nothing here, so yeah, moving the Panzerjäger up is obviously correct, because if Lesnik wants to get any more Shermans in place, it's going to be super easy for him to counter it with that Jagdpanzer. Gary knows that. Okay, Ostwind's back in action, he's coming out now. These support guns have not been doing as much work as I expected them to do in the early game. One of them has 8 kills, and that particular one hasn't gotten a kill in a very long time. And neither has the other gun. I'm really not sure why these lead guns are just doing shit all this game. Really interesting. So anyway, Lesnik finally pushing on the north. He's got some engineers coming in with their shotgun. Little does he know the Fallschirmjägers are coming in behind. He really needs that Sherman in the fight. Hopefully with HE equipped. That's a negative, he just doesn't have the ammo for that. But yeah, he's going to be able to at least do something, hopefully. Gary does have a lot of munitions to spend on aircraft at the moment though, so that is going to be a problem for Lesnik in the near future. Something else I find pretty interesting is that neither player has built any caches whatsoever. Is that the meta, or is that just what you do? Because I mean, I would have definitely put a munitions point. If I was Gary, I would have definitely put a munitions point, maybe here, maybe probably here. Because that way you can just spam your planes and not really have to worry about it if they get shot down. But obviously he's using his manpower more than effectively. Not really any complaints there. Lesnik's decided to grab the tank commander, which is interesting, instead of HE. Interesting. It's got the AA gun now. What's the go here? Is he using a recon plane? Looks like Gary's using a recon plane. He's just trying to figure out what the hell Lesnik's doing. And the answer to that question is absolutely nothing. Okay, he's trying to push out the south side here, which is obviously fair. Gary's just flipped Lesnik's only munitions point over to himself. He's not receiving any resources from it at this point, but it just means Lesnik is not getting it, which is going to be really, really important. But the Jagdpanzer rolls in, wipes out the Sherman, so it's probably going to be game at this point. Yeah. Okay. Wow. That's definitely a game and a half from Lesnik and Gary. Far out. Definitely some crazy plays back and forth, but just like something, I just want to sort of, I don't want to just end the video and just be like, you know, that's it. Have a nice day, comrade. Bliet. I just want to sort of quickly analyze, you know, general thoughts on what the go is with that. That Ostwind definitely should have died to that rocket strafe. Don't know why that happened. That rocket strafe should have definitely wiped out that Ostwind. If that's a problem, like, fix that shit. That's like 200, I'm pretty sure it's like 250 manpower. Oh, sorry, it's like somewhere around 200 munitions. It's somewhere in that ballpark. It's not a cheap ability, and Lesnik didn't have that many munitions to start with. If he was desperate enough to use that on an Ostwind, you bloody well better fucking destroy it. Like, you use that shit on Tigers and it does heaps of damage. How does it not destroy a Ostwind? But as far as like mistakes, stuff like that goes, just like watching it over from a spectator's perspective, Lesnik definitely not applying enough pressure on the top here. Gary had one Pioneer squad defending that pretty much the entire time they were fighting over this. So yeah, just maybe be a bit more aware of where Gary's resources are going, because it might feel like Gary has an infinite supply of manpower when you're fighting him, but he actually doesn't. You'd be surprised to learn, even though it feels like that, he just knows where to spearhead all of his manpower. Wherever something needs doing, Gary will just throw everything he's got at it. Which that's at least what he was doing in this game. Wherever the fighting was, everything he had was on that section of the map, which is obviously not a criticism. That's probably a correct play in general. It's sort of a it's not like a minimum not minimum effective force, but it's like scaling exponential loss differences. I can't remember the exact word for it, but it's like, if a fight is like 5 versus 4, the fight might end with the 5 players, like the 5 units, having only 2 people left. But if it's 5 versus 20, the group of 20 might only lose like 20 units. But anyway, that's a completely different discussion. As far as this video goes and this game goes, yeah, just that early munitions point as well. Lesnik really needed that, especially his aircraft. Like, you just got to start stacking up that munitions. Like, even from the early game, like in the first 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes, not even that you have that point. That's a free grenade. A free grenade. It's really important you get that. Like, it's like right next to your base, and Gary had that pretty much almost not instantly. He obviously went for the fuel point like everybody else does first, but he did make sure that he got his munitions point, and that did help him out in the long run, which we did see play out in the long run as well. Obviously, it wasn't just a munitions point. Gary was, obviously no, Lesnik, like it's no shame to lose to Gary. It's like he's one of the top. I would argue he's probably one of the top, in the top 5 best Vikinger players. So no shame losing to Gary there, especially holding out for half an hour. That's really impressive. I can't do that. Gary just smashes me in the early game, and then the game's over and I cry about it. But yeah, apart from that, Gary, the only real ineffective unit that we saw Gary have is these support guns. They did fucking nothing. They killed collectively. For everything that you spent on these league support guns, you killed 10 infantry. 10 infantry. And like, imagine the manpower that they would have sapped over the entirety of the game. I mean, I suppose there was like suppression bonuses sometimes with them, but yeah, whatever. Either way, we just saw it play out. Obviously Gary he was able to trade more effectively throughout the entirety of the game, and also the preemptive Jagdpanzer was really important. That was so important, because if he didn't have that, and he only had his Jagdpanzer, Panzerjägers to rely on, that might have been a bit interesting for Gary to deal with if he decided to push everything he had up here and just sort of dominate this area while Gary sort of took that, because he already knew, Lesnik would have already known that Gary had all of his attention focused here, and you could just take 2 engineer squads and the Sherman up here, put the Sherman like here or some shit, so that the Panzerjägers can't get out of the base, and just capture all of this. Obviously not ignoring the bottom. You still have that HMG down there, and then but apart from that, and then obviously one last thing to mention is that HMG in the middle building. That would have been super effective. Not a 30 cal. You needed a 50 cal in there so that you could zone half tracks and that autocannon car away, because obviously that car is a pain in the dick hole to deal with in the early game, and it sucks if you're not prepared for it. So yeah, it's actually really expensive, that car, and it's only effective if the enemy player isn't prepared for it. And unfortunately, in this particular instance, you were not. And it's just another point in the game where Gary got some advantage on Lesnik, and then it just sort of like every time that happens, because obviously it was quite an even match. There was no doubt about it. It was a very intense match, but every time Gary makes one of those good trades, Lesnik ends up at a manpower deficit, and you can see that play out through the entirety of the game. Not only manpower deficit, but ammo deficit, and then obviously Gary is just able to take that small resource advantage and compound it into the next advantage, like with the Panzer into the Sherman. That was one of them. Obviously losing it to the stupid engineer squad is a fucking pain in the ass, but that was probably an even trade. But it's just stuff like that, because that was a really unlucky, really close trade, and that sort of stuff was happening all the time where Gary didn't lose. No, sorry, Gary didn't break even. So every time Gary won a little bit, he would be slightly ahead of Lesnik, and then if that happens again, he's slightly further ahead, and then if it happens again, he's slightly further ahead, and then like that just compounds over the game until you see what we have at the moment, which is Gary has an entire army, and Lesnik just sort of ran out of men, which is war, obviously. You know, that's really good match. And then obviously, you know, apart from that, I hope I didn't shit on you too much this game, Lesnik. I try not to be... yeah, anyway. Let me know your thoughts, comments below. I'll be in the comments, you know, got nothing else better to do. And then, yeah, hopefully we can, you know, do some more of these casts and, you know, have a good time. I still want to make one of those play the game parodies. I do want to do that. Apart from that, yeah, none of these hour 15 matches. I won't be doing them. But yeah, anything that's half an hour or less long, about half an hour and less long, like perfectly happy to take a look at. Apart from that, thanks for the watch.